Emily sat at the dining table, hands trembling around a mug of cold tea. Daniel had just confessed that he'd been seeing someone else, someone more exciting. He said, like it was a business deal instead of a marriage. The sound of his suitcase rolling across the hardwood floor was the last thing she heard before the door shut. He left her with a mortgage she couldn't pay and a heart she thought would never beat the same again. If you are new, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and don't forget to share it with your family and friends. Also let us know where you are watching from. The first weeks were a blur. She tried to keep her job at the small accounting office, but her concentration slipped. Nights were long and silent. Sometimes she would stand at the window of the little house they'd bought together, staring at the streetlights, wondering how she had ended up disposable. Bills piled up. Her friends, uncomfortable with her sadness, slowly stopped calling. She even stopped visiting her parents because she couldn't bear their worried faces. Then one rainy morning she picked up an old spiral notebook and began listing everything she still knew how to do. Baking, designing cozy interiors, organizing. I need to survive, she whispered to herself. She took a bus to the local market and bought a bag of flour, butter, and sugar with her last spare cash. That night she baked muffins, cinnamon rolls, and 2 loaves of bread. She barely slept, setting up a tiny table at the farmer's market at dawn. Her first day she sold out before noon. People liked her warmth. It was different from the cold, mass-produced food they were used to. Each night after work she sketched plans for a tiny cafe. She didn't have the money, but she had an idea. She saved every coin, took on small decorating jobs for neighbors, and slowly began to see her life as a construction site. She was laying new foundations. She painted her own kitchen cupboards to match the mood boards she drew. She made friends with a florist in the market, who began trading leftover flowers for her leftover pastries. Little by little she built a network. Months passed. Her market stall became a pop-up stand in a friend's bookshop. People came not just for coffee and pastries, but for the way she remembered their names. She repainted the walls herself, hung second-hand fairy lights, and called the stand Hearth and Home. When a local journalist wrote a piece about her markets, all magic, orders exploded. Emily reinvested every cent. She rented a storage unit to handle the orders, hired a university student part-time, and began offering small workshops on comfort baking to lonely singles on Saturday nights. The day she signed the lease on a small corner shop, she cried not because she was scared, but because she'd built it herself. 2 years later, Hearth and Home was a thriving cafe with a waiting list for catering. Emily had friends again, people who respected her work, not her marital status. She had learned to laugh without bitterness. She even started dating quietly, but on her terms, meeting people for coffee but keeping her heart guarded. She also started mentoring a young woman named Leela, who reminded her of herself in the early days, shy, underpaid, but full of ideas. Together they ran community nights at the cafe, book readings, soup kitchens in winter, even a small scholarship fund for women trying to start over. One Sunday afternoon, as the cafe buzzed with chatter, she looked up and froze. Daniel stood at the door. The confident man who had left her was gone. In his place was someone thinner, pale, eyes heavy with regret. He waited until the crowd thinned, then approached her. "Emily," he said, voice cracking, "I lost everything. The firm collapsed. She left. I have nothing." She held up her hand. "Stop." Customers looked away politely. She took him to a quiet corner. "I know you're hurting," she said softly. "But you're not my responsibility any more." He tried to smile, like old times. "Maybe we could start again. Maybe I could work here, anything." Emily shook her head. "The woman you left no longer exists. I built something without you. I built myself." He blinked back tears. For a moment the years of love and betrayal hung between them. Emily reached out, not to hold him, but to steady herself. "I don't hate you," she said. "I even hope you heal, but my life isn't a place you can come back to. Goodbye, Daniel." He left without looking back, shoulders slumped. She turned and walked back behind the counter. Sunlight spilled across the polished wood. Her staff moved around her with easy confidence. Leela caught her eye and gave a small nod, understanding more than words could say. Emily breathed in the scent of fresh bread, cinnamon, and coffee, her own kingdom. That night she stayed late, cleaning the cafe herself. She paused at the front window, watching people pass under the street lamps. She thought of the girl she had been on that first rainy morning, with the notebook and the bag of flour. She realized the ache was gone, the emptiness had been replaced with a quiet, steady strength. Emily smiled, locked up, and walked home. The past had tried to return, but she had chosen herself instead. She wasn't just surviving any more. She was living, thriving, and free. And for the first time in years she allowed herself to imagine not just getting by, but falling in love again some day, with someone who would see the woman she had become, not the woman she had been.